Neighbor called the cops on me smoking weed, so I outed him to his family. First off, where I'm from, weed is illegal. I'm very conscious about the smell, and I understand that for non-smokers the smell of weed is horrendous. I completely understand why, and I always do my best to avoid any discomfort to anyone. That's why I usually smoke late at night, when I know that everyone should be asleep, including my downstairs neighbors. We live in an old apartment building. The thing with this guy is that he's a heavy tobacco smoker, and I can always hear him coming in and out of the terrace. Mostly because he shuts that door so *amn hard that all the walls shake. From the pattern of slamming doors, I can tell Thathay smokes his last cig at around 2:30 a.m. Therefore I decided to go for my nightly puff at 3 a.m. Opened the windows, turned on the oil diffuser that is also anti-tobacco, and lit up my joint. 15 minutes later, cops knock on my door, alongside them is my neighbor, and I get taken to the PD for statements. I end up with a warning for possession, a fine for disturbing the peace at night, and a sleepless night. Before this point, he wasn't exactly a friendly neighbor either, but his wife was sweet, from the few interactions I had with her. The first few days after I moved in, he always gave me the death stare, but I assumed he was just grumpy. Fast forward a few days, I'm scrolling through Grindr when a new profile pops up at the very top of the list. All my neighbors are mostly elderly people, so I was quite confused as to who this is. I clicked on his profile, and it was him. I started a conversation with him, sent him a pic of a friend, with consent, to pretend I was him, and a couple of hours later we were sexting and he sent me a couple of nudes. The next morning, I caught his wife before going to work and showed her everything. When he came home from work, I could hear a lot of crying and he eventually got kicked out. It's worth mentioning that they also have a 16-year-old kid. I'm very satisfied with my revenge, but I also feel terribly sorry for both the wife and child. They didn't deserve this. What do you think? Handicap spaces are about accessibility, not convenience. Many years ago my daughter has been fussy all day long. My wife was ready to pull her own hair out. Therefore, I took my daughter with me to the store. She was very young, and pretty, with the cutest little purple wheelchair secondary to spina bifida. We get to the store, unload her wheelchair from the Chevy Suburban. She climbs down into said chair, and off we go. After shopping is done, we're at the Suburban reversing the process to load her up and stow the chair. As I'm loading said chair, dude pulls up next to mine, a new Corvette still with paper tags on it. Convertible, containing dude and his trophy, or significant other. I casually mention that he spilled into a row of handicap space without a handicap tag or placard. He says yeah, and saunters off to shop with his well, I'm a little pissed at this moment, but don't want to do damage to such a beautiful car. Then, an evil thought enters my brain. I go to the cart storage, just in front of where we're parked. I put carts in a loose formation around his car. Security guard comes out, but just watches. An off-duty city cop also comes out, also just watches. I proceed to put several layers of carts, tightly packed together, 360 degrees around his car. I approach the guard and city cop, and explain that dude was using handicap space for convenience, not due to an accessibility problem. I point out that no carts are touching his car, so no damage, but that he sure as hell has an accessibility problem now. They both laughing at this point. The cop says that he hopes the guy complains, because he'll write a ticket to dude. I laughed quite a bit over this, and quite frankly, still do every now and then. ETA. To answer a common question as to why the cop wouldn't just write a ticket straight away. Heck couldn't. In Texas, at the time, on private property they couldn't write one unless the property owner, manager called, or the person otherwise engaged with the officer. He was hoping the guy came to complain so the cop could then engage with dude, then write a ticket.
Neighbor was petty on property limits. Now I'm going to make him replace his whole fence. When my contractor installed the fence around my property, he made a mistake and went over the property line by 4 centimeters, along my neighbor's hedge. My neighbor made a fuss of it, and even dragged us to court. We lost, obviously, he was petty, but that's the law. However, we found out today that his dog is amongst the dangerous breeds, so his fence should be 2 meters high, with a concrete base around all of his property. Turns out the current one is 1 meter 40, with no base. Guess what complaint I'm going to file with the police? I have 3 small kids who like to play in the yard, and he has trained his dog to bark whenever they go outside. He's a heinous guy, for real. Edit. I see quite a few people saying I encroached on his land. To be completely clear, we're talking 4 centimeters in a 10 meters line, so that's 0.040.4 square meters. Bad math. My contractor told me he wouldn't move it because that's in the margin offerer for plans, and it's along a *ucking hedge. Edit to the edit, because I just woke up brain no work good. Last edit before I let this die on its own. I wasn't set on revenge. Like I said, we lost, fair and square, because the law is the law. But, since he always yelled about the law and his rights, what a hypocrite to abstain from mentioning he is in violation too. So, since we were both in violation of property limit law, I'm only making sure we Allened in compliance. You want all the boys? You can have them. I just saw another post, and it reminded me of this. When I was in HS, I had a friend who was incredibly manipulative and attention-seeking, especially when IT came to boys. If she found out that someone had a crush on me, or anyone else in our friend group, she would swoop in and flirt to take the attention. This went double if I liked the guy back. I even have a vivid memory of her straddling my boyfriend in a school stairwell while the 3 Ofus were hanging out. Poor guy was so uncomfortable and was the only one who didn't fall for her wiles. He and I are still besties 15 years later. Going into university, I started going out with a new group of friends who were really into clubbing. Get a bunch of students drunk and dancing together. And of course, moves will be made. I had no interest in the chads that came sniffing around, so when they'd ask for my number, after multiple polite rejections, I thought to myself, you know who would love this? That girl from HS. So from then on, whenever I got some pushy guy who just wouldn't take no for an answer, I told them my name was her name and then gave them her number. She always wanted the attention that I received. It just made sense to help her out. Reddit reaches the backwoods. 10 people in the register line at the farm store. Time change screwed up the register, and Karen decides to throw a fit about the line moving slow. She demands the manager, rattles her complaint at high volume. When he tries to speak, she pops off with, "Do you know WHOIAM?" The manager skips a beat, grabs the store microphone and says, "Does anyone know who this woman is?" She's lost and confused and doesn't know who she is. The entire line busted out laughing, suggestions of calling the nursing home to see if they are missing someone, etc. She stormed off. I still don't know who she was. And I was still laughing when I got to the register, asked the manager how he thought of that, and he said he saw it on Reddit. Reddit has reached the backwoods. Yes, I would like a receipt. I go to the local Salvation Army thrift store frequently to donate stuff. I just drop things off at the counter and never bother asking for the donation receipt they offer. This subreddit is my favorite, and recently I found myself thinking about petty revenges. Yesterday I scored, with a revenge that is barely petty enough to qualify. There was a table as you entered the thrift shop, with paperback books on in, and the sign said, "Special. 5 books for $1.00. I rummaged through it, but could only find 4 books that interested me. I took them up to the checkout desk, fully intending to pay $1.00 for only 4 books, even if Shay rung it up as 80 cents. Well, she told me it would be $4.00. I pointed to the sign that said 5 for $1.00 and she informed me, in a voice that a high school librarian would have been proud of, that they were $1.00 each, but you had to buy 5 to get the special price. So I simply walked to the table and selected a book at random to add to the 4 already on the counter. I was holding a dollar bill, but she informed me, I'm now positive she was a retired high school librarian, that it would be 1.6 cents because of the state tax. There was a penny jar next to her, but Shay didn't offer to pull 6 cents out for me. Cue first revenge. I probably had 6 cents in my pocket or another dollar bill, but I didn't even check. I took a $20 bill out of my wallet and handed it to her. She asked me, escalating to a world-class high school librarian voice, if I had anything smaller. No ma'am. She gave me 18.94 cents back in change, and turned away from me, not even offering to put my purchase in one of the paper bags that were stacked behind her. Cue very petty revenge. I immediately placed the extra book on the counter and told her I was donating it. And then I asked for a donation receipt. She had no choice, completely fill out the receipt for my donation and sign it. She valued the donation at 20 cents, and I didn't bother to point out that the thrift shop values the books at $1.00. After she gave me the receipt, I asked her very nicely if I could have one of the paper bags to carry my books out. She gave me a withering look, so I just told her to have a nice day and walked out with the 4 paperbacks. I don't know if I'm wrong for this, but... So, I used to work at a retail store. It was my first retail job, and honestly I liked it because of the people I got to meet and build connection with. I had regular customers whom I have developed deeper connections with. But as usual, I've had the difficulty ones too. On this fine day, I was put in the registers and we had a huge sales going on, so people have been buying like 30 to 100 items, and the line was so long that we had to open the second sets of registers. I was having an oakish day but was putting on brave face for the customers. As I called up the next person online, I saw Shahad, her daughter with her, and me being lover of kids, I waved and smiled, but the little girl gave me a dead angry look, so I figured she is angry with the world because her mommy didn't buy her anything. But as the mom was placing the items, the little girl grabbed a small round toy and placed it on the countertop, so I moved it to the side, tossing the big items before scanning the small one. The girl picked it up and shoved it on my face, saying, "You better not put this in a bag, okay? You better not put in a bag. You got me. You better not put it. I'm warning you." I grew up with siblings and I've met other children who act like they're giving you a warning but are super sweet, so you won't take them too seriously. This girl wasn't giving me that vibe, and the vibe I got was that she views me as some sort of servantan. The fact that her mom didn't sit well right with me. From that I realized this was just spoiled brat. Mind you, I was scanning about 50 items the mom bought, so they spent about 20 to 30 minutes with me, and this girl was kept repeating herself. So I decided today is the sachet, learn the consequences of her actions. After scanning all the items, I placed them in a big bag and then scanned the toy last, placed it in a small bag, tie it so tight, and then placed it in another bag, tied that and put in another bag. The girl got mad and was screaming at me going, "I told you not to put it in a bag." I ignored and told her mom how some parents have came back saying the toy broke or got lost, so as an extra precautions thing, I like to help my customers get their item home in one piece, was a lie BTW, and the mom bought it. I still heard the girl screaming the same thing and over again as they walked to the parking lot. This wasn't a big thing, but sometimes I remember this and just think about how parents need to raise their kids better than being a spoiled brats.